What the Buddha Taught by Walpola Rahula. Chapter 3. The Second Noble Truth, Samudaya, the Arising of Dukkha. The second noble truth is that of the arising or origin of dukkha, dukkha samudaya arya satcha. The most popular and well-known definition of the second truth, as found in innumerable places in the original texts, runs as follows. It is this thirst, craving, tanha, which produces re-existence and re-becoming, ponobhavika, and which is bound up with passionate greed, nandira gasahagata, and which finds fresh delight now here and now there, tatra binandini, namely 1. Thirst for sense pleasures, kamatana, thirst for existence and becoming, bhavatana, and 3. Thirst for non-existence, self-annihilation, vibhavatana. It is this thirst, desire, greed, craving, manifesting itself in various ways, that gives rise to all forms of suffering and the continuity of beings. But it should not be taken as the first cause, for there is no first cause possible, as, according to Buddhism, everything is relative and interdependent. Even this thirst, tanha, which is considered as the cause or origin of dukkha, depends for its arising, samudaya, on something else, which is sensation, vedana, and sensation arises depending on contact, phassa, and so on and so forth goes on the circle which is known as conditioned genesis, paticca samuppada, which we will discuss later. So, tanha, thirst, is not the first or the only cause of the arising of dukkha, but it is the most palpable and immediate cause, the principal thing, and the all-pervading thing. Hence, in certain places of the original Pali texts themselves, the definition of samudaya, or the origin of dukkha, includes other defilements and impurities, kilesa sasavadama, in addition to tanha, thirst, which is always given the first place. Within the necessarily limited space of our discussion, it will be sufficient if we remember that this thirst has as its center the false idea of self-arising out of ignorance. Here the term thirst includes not only desire for and attachment to sense pleasures, wealth and power, but also desire for and attachment to ideas and ideals, views, opinions, theories, conceptions and beliefs, Dhammapada. According to the Buddha's analysis, all the troubles and strife in the world, from little personal quarrels in families to great wars between nations and countries, arise out of this selfish thirst. From this point of view, all economic, political, and social problems are rooted in this selfish thirst. Great statesmen who try to settle international disputes and talk of war and peace only in economic and political terms touch the superficialities and never go deep into the real root of the problem. As the Buddha told Ratapala, the world lacks and hankers and is enslaved to thirst, tanha daso. Everyone will admit that all the evils in the world are produced by selfish desire. This is not difficult to understand. But how this desire, thirst, can produce re-existence and re-becoming, ponobhavika, is a problem not so easy to grasp. It is here that we have to discuss the deeper, philosophical side of the second noble truth, corresponding to the philosophical side of the first noble truth. Here we must have some idea about the theory of karma and rebirth. There are 4 nutriments, ahara, in the sense of cause or condition, necessary for the existence and continuity of beings. 1. Ordinary material food, kabalinkarahara. 2. Contact of our sense organs, including mind, with the external world, pasabara. 3. Consciousness, Vinanahara, and 4. Mental volition or will, Mano Sanchetanahara. Of these four, the last mentioned mental volition is the will to live, to exist, to re-exist, to continue, to become more and more. It creates the root of existence and continuity, striving forward by way of good and bad actions. Kusala kusala kama. It is the same as volition, cetana. We have seen earlier that volition is karma, as the Buddha himself has defined it. Referring to mental volition just mentioned above, the Buddha says, when one understands the nutriment of mental volition, one understands the three forms of thirst, tanha. Thus the terms thirst, volition, mental volition, and karma all denote the same thing. They denote the desire, the will to be, to exist, to re-exist, to become more and more, to grow more and more, to accumulate more and more. This is the cause of the arising of dukkha, and this is found within the aggregate of mental formations, one of the five aggregates which constitute a being. Here is one of the most important and essential points in the Buddha's teaching. We must therefore clearly and carefully mark and remember that the cause, the germ of the arising of dukkha, is within dukkha itself and not outside. And we must equally well remember that the cause, the germ of the cessation of dukkha, of the destruction of dukkha, is also within dukkha itself, and not outside. This is what is meant by the well-known formula often found in original Pali texts, Yam kinchi samudaya dhamma sabam tam nirodha dhammam. Whatever is of the nature of arising, all that is of the nature of cessation. A being, a thing, or a system, if it has within itself the nature of arising, the nature of coming into being, has also within itself the nature, the germ, of its own cessation and destruction. Thus dukkha, five aggregates, has within itself the nature of its own arising, and has also within itself the nature of its own cessation. This point will be taken up again in the discussion of the third noble truth, nirodha. Now the Pali word karma, or the Sanskrit word karma from the root kri, to do, literally means action, doing. But in the Buddhist theory of karma, it has a specific meaning. It means only volitional action, not all action. Nor does it mean the result of karma as many people wrongly and loosely use it. In Buddhist terminology, karma never means its effect. Its effect is known as the fruit or the result of karma, karmapala or karma vipaka. Volition may relatively be good or bad, just as a desire may relatively be good or bad. So karma may be good or bad relatively. Good karma, kusala, produces good effects, and bad karma, akusala, produces bad effects. Thirst, volition, karma, whether good or bad, has one force as its effect, force to continue in a good or bad direction. Whether good or bad, it is relative, and is within the cycle of continuity, samsara. An arahant, though he acts, does not accumulate karma, because he is free from the false idea of self, free from the thirst for continuity and becoming, free from all other defilements and impurities. Kiksa, sasava dhamma. For him, there is no rebirth. The theory of karma should not be confused with so-called moral justice or reward and punishment. The idea of moral justice or reward and punishment arises out of the conception of a supreme being, a God, who sits in judgment, who is a lawgiver, and who decides what is right and wrong. The term justice is ambiguous and dangerous, and in its name more harm than good is done to humanity. The theory of karma is the theory of cause and effect of action and reaction. It is a natural law, which has nothing to do with the idea of justice or reward and punishment. Every volitional action produces its effects or results. If a good action produces good effects and a bad action bad effects, it is not justice or reward or punishment meted out by anybody or any power sitting in judgment on your action, but this is in virtue of its own nature, its own law. This is not difficult to understand. But what is difficult is that, according to the karma theory, the effects of a volitional action may continue to manifest themselves even in a life after death. Here we have to explain what death is according to Buddhism. We have seen earlier that a being is nothing but a combination of physical and mental forces or energies. What we call death is the total non-functioning of the physical body. Do all these forces and energies stop altogether with the non-functioning of the body? Buddhism says no. Will, volition, desire, thirst to exist, to continue, to become more and more, is a tremendous force that moves whole lives, whole existences, that even moves the whole world. This is the greatest force, the greatest energy in the world. According to Buddhism, this force does not stop with the non-functioning of the body, which is death, but it continues manifesting itself in another form, producing re-existence, which is called rebirth. Now another question arises. If there is no permanent, unchanging entity or substance like self or soul, what is it that can re-exist or be reborn after death? Before we go on to life after death, let us consider what this life is and how it continues now. What we call life, as we have so often repeated, is the combination of the five aggregates, a combination of physical and mental energies. These are constantly changing. They do not remain the same for 2 consecutive moments. Every moment they are born and they die. When the aggregates arise, decay, and die, O bhikkhu, every moment you are born, decay, and die. Thus, even now, during this lifetime, every moment we are born and die, but we continue. If we can understand that in this life, we can continue without a permanent, unchanging substance like self or soul. Why can't we understand that those forces themselves can continue without a self or a soul behind them after the non-functioning of the body? When this physical body is no more capable of functioning, energies do not die with it, but continue to take some other shape or form, which we call another life. In a child, all the physical, mental, and intellectual faculties are tender and weak, but they have within them the potentiality of producing a full-grown man. Physical and mental energies, which constitute the so-called being, have within themselves the power to take a new form, and grow gradually and gather force to the full. As there is no permanent, unchanging substance, nothing passes from one moment to the next. So quite obviously nothing permanent or unchanging can pass or transmigrate from one life to the next. It is a series that continues unbroken, but changes every moment. The series is, really speaking, nothing but movement. It is like a flame that burns through the night. It is not the same flame, nor is it another. A child grows up to be a man of 60. Certainly the man of 60 is not the same as the child of 60 years ago, nor is he another person. Similarly, a person who dies here and is reborn elsewhere is neither the same person nor another. Nacha so nacha ano. It is the continuity of the same series. The difference between death and birth is only a thought moment. The last thought moment in this life conditions the first thought moment in the so-called next life, which in fact is the continuity of the same series. During this life itself, too, one thought moment conditions the next thought moment. So, from the Buddhist point of view, The question of life after death is not a great mystery, and a Buddhist is never worried about this problem. As long as there is this thirst to be and to become, the cycle of continuity, samsara, goes on. It can stop only when its driving force, this thirst, is cut off through wisdom, which sees reality, truth, nirvana.